She could still vividly remember his crystal-clear eyes and his deep voice as he asked, "Who was there?" As the wind blew into the room, a piece of yellow paper was scattered on the ground. It was the paper in which emperors wrote their imperial decrees. Chu Qiao walked into the palace, stepping over that piece of paper. She looked at the shadow hiding behind the curtains, calmly, saying in a heavy tone, "I'm here to take your life." Zhang Ziyu laughed and replied in a calm voice, "I didn't expect it to be you. I never thought that our next meeting would be like this. You were a fallen man back then. To get to where you were in 5 years, it must have not been easy." Chu Qiao continued calmly with an expressionless look. Zhang Ziyu laughed again and retorted, "Are you trying to console me? It's not bad either. It's not easy to get praised by the famous general of Zhuli either." Chu Qiao maintained her calm demeanor and asked, "Do you have any last wishes?" A look of sadness flashed across Zhang Ziyu's face. He frowned and said indignantly, "I do not feel fulfilled if I don't kill these hypocritical nobles of Liang." He continued, "General Chu, why can the Xiao family rule over this country but not me? Didn't the Xiao family obtain this empire from the previous ruling family too? Why are they the righteous rulers of this country, while I am the rebel?" A proud look started to appear on Zhang Ziyu's face. He looked up towards the rooftop slightly, a look of ambition appearing on his face. "Furthermore, I'm just taking back what the Xiao family owes me. What's wrong with that?" Chu Qiao was unmoved as she continued to say calmly, "That's your personal feud. It's none of my business." She stepped forward slowly. The sound of her footsteps resembled the midnight drums striking as it reverberated around the walls of the palace. "You killed someone that I treasure. I will kill you to avenge him." As she withdrew her sword out of its sheath, it gave out a blinding silver glimmer, which shone on Zhang Ziyu, projecting a white ray of light onto his face. "What else do you have to say?" "Let my sister go. She's just a woman. She did everything for my sake." Chu Qiao looked at him and remained silent for a long while as she started to feel a tinge of sorrow within her heart. The winds blowed towards them from afar, tugging at their sleeves. "Sorry, I can't do it." A gush of crimson-red blood splattered out onto Chu Qiao's black-colored clothes, losing its red color as it seeped into the cloth. Chu Qiao bent down and picked up the man's head on the ground. His jet-black hair was neatly combed. His complexion was fair. His expression was gentle, as if he had drifted off to sleep. Blood was everywhere near his neck, where his head had been severed. It was a gruesome sight. Swoosh. Chu Qiao threw the head into the hands of another bodyguard and declared with a heavy tone, "Hang the head onto the palace gates and let those soldiers from the Central Army see it." As she finished her sentence, she walked out of Lingqiao Palace, got onto her horse, and ordered to the people on her left and right to Rufu Palace. The moon had crept over the layer of clouds unknowingly, giving the landscape a desolate appearance. As Lingqiao Palace started to quiet down, the soldiers dressed in their body armor departed the palace, leaving only a heap of bodies behind. The crows in the sky let out their cries. Their black wings appeared like the ensign of death. In that empty palace, the headless corpse sat upright on that golden chair, adding to the creepiness of the atmosphere. The battle at Rufu Palace had ended by then. Tai Yu and Sun Di arrived together, bloodstains visible on their bodies, which showed the intensity of the battle earlier on. Chu Qiao jumped off her horse and said to Sun Di, "It's been hard on you." Sun Di brushed it off with a laugh and replied, "It's all right. It's just that the food in the palace sucked. I lost quite a lot of weight. Miss, we have captured concubine Zhan, Tiyu declared in a heavy tone. Chu Qiao raised her eyebrows and questioned, "Is the emperor all right?" Tiyu mimicked her expression and replied, "Just a few shocks here and there." "That's good." Chu Qiao heaved a sigh of relief and continued, "Why are you so glum then?" "Empress Yuan has killed herself. When we barged in, she thought that we were concubine Zhan's people. Before we spoke, she banged her head against the wall and died." Chu Qiao frowned tightly, not expecting the Yuan family to show such levels of cowardice. She had painstakingly paved an escape route for mother and son, but the mother had died just like that, without making a sound. "Miss," Sun Di stepped forward and declared with a heavy tone, "The Zhan siblings assassinated the late emperor and colluded with other syndicates to plot against him as they coveted the throne. The evidence against them is here. We can reveal this to the world tomorrow and expose them for their crimes." Chu Qiao received the papers from him. It was just a few pieces of paper, but it felt unbelievably heavy as she held it in her hands. "Let me out! Bunch of slaves! Let me out!" A heartrending series of cries suddenly echoed out from the palace, not far out. The majestic Rufu Palace had been reduced to ruins as the fire continued to ravage the building, leaving dust and debris everywhere in its trail. Zhan Ziming was wearing a bright red outfit as she struggled to fight her way out of the palace, with 2 servants blocking her way. Her eyes were bloodshot. Her royal demeanor had evaporated. When she saw Chu Qiao, Sun Di, and the rest, she froze. Looking at Chu Qiao, she asked, "Where's my big brother?" Chu Qiao replied emotionlessly, "Dead." It was almost as if Zhan Ziming had expected the arrival of this day. After a long while, she started to laugh bitterly. Her voice was resigned, as the bright look in her eyes faded. She looked at Chu Qiao and asked calmly, "You killed him?" "Yes." "Good, good. The person he liked is indeed capable. No wonder he's only true to you." Chu Qiao looked at the beautiful lady, who had been consumed by madness, with a sympathetic expression. Through her pretty face, she seemingly read the thoughts at the bottom of her heart. "How do you intend to deal with Ronger? He's not just your child. He is Xiaoche's child. I will treat him well." Zhan Ziming nodded and laughed bitterly. "Good. My hands are stained with blood. I killed him. If not for Big Brother, I wouldn't have lived on either. Kill me." In that instant, Chu Qiao saw her fragmented heart through her resigned smile. Having admired her elder brother since her childhood, she listened to Zhan Ziyu and followed all of his arrangements. However, when she entered the palace, she could not help falling for Xiaoche. Perhaps she had not realized this up until she carried out the plan to assassinate him. It was only then that she understood what she actually thought towards him. That day, outside Yixin Palace, the sorrow that she felt did not seem to be fake. Alas, out of the 2 men that she loved, one did not love her, while the other was unable to love her. Ultimately, she was made to be a fool by fate. Give concubine Zhan the poisoned wine. Chu Qiao turned around decisively and took big steps towards the outside of the palace. The winds blew as the darkness engulfed the landscape. It was brightly lit at the gates of Jinwu Palace, as the shouting became softer and softer. Sounds of a war siren pierced through the air. The smell of debris, blood, and deceased souls welcomed her and surrounded her from all directions. She held her sword in her hand as she wore her blood-stained outfit. She stood upright, with the soldiers in black to her left and right, as the palace burnt to the ground behind her. Her gaze was cold as she looked towards the horizon. Over the horizon, the lonely regions of the north beckoned. She didn't blink, as if she was looking at someone. However, the look in her eyes was empty. "The demise of concubine Zhan," the eunuch declared loudly.